So, today I wanted to talk about whether or not the left actually eats its own. I've heard that phrase a lot in right wing circles saying, oh, well, the left will eat its own, blah, 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 blah. Like, and it's sensationalist based on what they're referring to and what I'm referring to in asking this question. When right wingers tend to speak about whether or not the left will eat its own, it's closer to nobody can agree on anything, so they're not worth listening to. My question is, why can we not agree on anything? So I'm going to get to the first part of my thesis. The first part is that there are way too many different types of leftists for us all to be squabbling with one another. There can be nothing productive that can come of that if we are all arguing about who's more right, who's more correct, who's more philanthropic, whatever. Like it's just ridiculous. I'm sorry. Like it makes literally no sense. And there's a bunch of different type of leftists. In my time in the leftist sphere, I've come across democratic socialists, socialists unto themselves, and those things are apparently different, and they are a little bit different. So I've come across anarcho communists and anarchists, and neither one of them seem to like each other, and it's just a mess. And I've also come across Marxist Leninists and Marxist Leninist Maoists. I think that's what it's called, but they can't agree with each other on anything either. Like it's just a lot. Like there's a lot of squabbling back and forth about who is more correct. Like who is more right in their analysis of how the way things work is like, and it's ridiculous. Like it's ridiculous to me, and it's off-putting for me as a person who just got into the leftist sphere. It's off-putting because, for one thing, there's a serious barrier of entry, which I am going to talk about later. There's a serious barrier of entry for these sorts of conversations in the first place. And then there's so much dissension and like so much squabbling and so much like bickering back and forth. And I'm just like, are you guys serious? Like, are we dead ass right now? And it's just, it kind of, it kind of ruins the entire idea of what I am trying to accomplish. You know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't come into leftism so that I could squabble back and forth over who knew the most about Kropotkin or Marx or Lenin or Ho Chi Minh or whatever. Like, I mean, like, I didn't come into leftism for that. My entry into leftism had literally nothing to do with any of these people. It had nothing to do with any of that. It had everything to do with my own personal discontentment with life and capitalism and not being able to afford anything and realizing that this is not okay. And I think a lot of people are kind of wandering into leftism in that sphere. So I wanted to speak about that too. I think that leftism, getting into my second point, I think that leftism needs to be more communicative and collaborative. And I'll expound on that in a minute. There is a huge, I guess, sort of focus on how much you've read or how many people you can cite as quotes or whatever. And like there's a huge focus on intellectualism and what sort of reading material and whatever you have access to. And I mean, there is a need for that. There absolutely is. But that shouldn't necessarily be the focus though. Like it shouldn't be, oh well, you have to have read this person and read this person and read this person in order to speak to me about your reality. My reality is that there are concentration camps 6 hours away from me. I will not stop talking about this until they are no longer in existence. I promise you that. Like there has to be a focus on real world issues, and in leftist spaces, I have come to find that a lot of people tend to bicker back and forth about, oh, well, after the revolution, we're going to do this. After the revolution, we're going to do this. After the revolution, we're going to do that. And it's just like, can we get to the fucking revolution first? Like, can somebody throw a goddamn Molotov? Like, somebody, like, can we get somewhere before we start making people feel small behind the fact that they don't think about things the exact way that we do? And I want to speak on this as well. Like, I frankly don't care if you're an MLM or an ML or a SOCDEM or a socialist or an ANCOM or an anarcho-communist or an anarchist or a communist or whatever. Like, I don't care. I don't care what sort of label you ascribe to yourself. That's your business. That has nothing to do with me in any way, shape, or form. Like, that's not my concern. My issue is we need to do something right the hell now, or we're screwed. Like, we're screwed, period. Like, we need to do something. And if we can't do something, if we can't communicate, if we can't work together on a tactical level, not necessarily an ideological level, if we cannot work together on a tactical level, then we will get nowhere. We will get nowhere. Because ultimately what it comes down to is we need boots on the ground. We need people affecting direct action right the fuck now. That's what we need. That's what we need right this instant. We need people who are putting in that work, people who are putting in that skin, people who are putting in that time, that effort, that energy to affect the change that we need in order to proceed with all of these extra revolutionary ideals. And that's not to say that they're wrong. And I don't want to say that at all. Like, because I know literally nothing about Kropotkin. I know literally nothing about Marx. I know nothing about Lenin. I know nothing about Ho Chi Minh. I know nothing about any of the people that the majority of my leftist contemporaries tend to cite. I know nothing about that. And I'm not going to pretend that I do. When I got into leftism because I was like, something needs to change. And I want to be a part of that change. So whatever it takes, that's what I need to do. That's where I need to be. Politically, in real life, that's where I need to be. I need to be putting my 2 cents into this so that we can do something for real, for real. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's how I came into leftism. I didn't come into leftism because I read the Bread Book once by Kropotkin and was just like, this is the way everybody needs to live and blah, 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 blah. Like, no, that's not how it works. And I mean, honestly, that's not the way it works for a lot of people who stumble their way into leftism. That's not the way it works. People don't necessarily come into leftism because you gave them a fucking book club recommendation. You know what I'm saying? Like, they don't come into it from that. These people who are stumbling into leftism, they are coming from real world goddamn problems. Real world issues. And this is not to say that people who harp on theory aren't focused on real world issues, because I do believe that they are. I mean, I believe they have to be, because otherwise they wouldn't be leftists in the first place. But if that is your focus amongst other leftists, to prove yourself as an intellectual authority over those who know less or have access to less or have seen less or whatever. Like, if that's how you're coming at leftism, you're coming at it from the wrong angle, baby. You coming at it from the wrong angle. Because this is not meant to establish yet another hierarchy. That's not the point of this. The point of this is that we need to dismantle capitalism in all of its forms right the hell now. And that I'm smarter than you thing is a part of capitalism. That's what it is. It's a part of capitalism, because what do you gain by saying, oh, well, I'm the smartest leftist in the room? What do you gain beyond social capital? If you're gaining social capital, you're participating in capitalism. And like in real life, in all honesty, humans as a whole don't really have a choice but to participate in capitalism. But to participate in capitalism in a stance that's supposed to be revolutionary is just hypocritical. It's hypocritical. It's hypocritical and it's counterproductive. And I mean, It's not to say that you are less intelligent or that you are less correct or whatever the hell it is that you need to stroke your ego today. Like, it's not to say that you are less than if you spend a lot of your time focusing on theory. There's nothing wrong with that. We need theory. We need theory. We need the history. Like, we need this shit. People who are gunning for change, people like me who are willing to like knock down buildings and shit behind this, people like me, we need that theory so that we can know who the fuck we're supposed to be going up against. We need theory. We need that. But we also need praxis. We need direct action. And it does not come from you bitching and complaining and squabbling in this stupid ass leftist debate club on Discord or YouTube or Twitter or whatever. Like, it doesn't come from that. And setting this ridiculous bar of entry in order to have a conversation with you is counterproductive. It's counterproductive. It helps nothing. It doesn't further the cause. There is nothing revolutionary about being the smartest motherfucker in the room. Sorry, there's nothing revolutionary about that. There's nothing revolutionary about that. You personally are not going to be the person who saves the world. It'll be all of us together, because this revolution is supposed to be for workers, for the underclass, for people who are struggling under the weight of the boot of the bourgeoisie. That's what's going to change everything, not just you and your fucking theory. So I think some humility is needed in coming to these spaces. And I'm going to tell you why. Because if you cannot get past that whole, well, I'm the smartest person in the room bullshit, if you can't get past that masturbatory ego stroke, you are alienating so many people. So many people. What is the number one tenet of leftism? What is it? What is it? Because as far as I am concerned, it is dismantling capitalism. That is our number one goal. As far as I am concerned. I don't know about everybody else. I don't want to speak for everybody else. So I don't know. But in my personal opinion, for myself personally, my biggest goal is dismantling capitalism. Dismantling capitalism in all of its forms, social capital included. So that means there is no room for your intellectual jerk-off session with a whole bunch of other people. That doesn't help anybody. You debating theory back and forth does not change the fact that nothing is different. It doesn't get them babies out of concentration camps. It doesn't stop us all being in debt for no reason, literally none. It doesn't help people in the global south. It just alienates the people that you need on your side. Because if there's a barrier of entry in order to have a conversation with you, like, yeah, okay, fine. If somebody doesn't know what transphobia is and they're wandering into a space and they're being like openly hostile and openly regressive, then sure, that's different. But if somebody is coming to you in good faith, which frankly, I think all of us should learn to assume way more often, if somebody is coming to you in good faith and they're like, oh, well, what does this mean? Or what does that mean? You don't have the right to make them feel small because they haven't read as many books as you. You don't know where they've been. You don't know where they came from. You know, fuck all. And you're sitting on this high horse of, oh, well, I'm smarter than you, so I don't have to answer questions. You need to do better. Each one, teach one is a tenet to live by in the left, and I will die on this hill. If you know more, if you have the ability to grant that access to somebody else, why the fuck wouldn't you? Why would you be gross about doing that? You know, like, we need the people, we need the numbers. And quite frankly, everybody who joins the left is not going to be some ivory tower intellectual. And acting like they should be is elitist as fuck, and it's alienating as fuck too. You shoot yourself in the foot and wonder why you hobbling. We need to get on some real shit. When I say get rid of capitalism, I mean in every iteration, even personally, especially personally. To the best of our ability, we need to be rejecting that shit. Because what does that help? It doesn't change anything. It doesn't do anything better for anybody. And honestly, this is another point of mine. I have come to find that Black people in specific, I can't speak for every other racial minority, but Black people in specific are hesitant to join leftist circles because it's a white boys club right now. That's what it is. It's Bernie Bros on steroids. That's what it is. And it's not inviting at all. And I say this as a Black person who wandered into this and was like, am I sure I want to get on this political ideology or not? Like, I mean, I'm sorry. Y'all think this is crazy. Like, it's ridiculous. You bar people out of conversations because they haven't read every book that you've read. Okay, fine. But you're alienating the same manpower you need that you're not going to supply. Like, because I want to point this out. These people who are harping on intellectualism are not going to be boots on the ground. They're not. They're not. You need boots on the ground. You need people affecting direct action right now, today. That's what you need. And I'm not saying send out orders so that your foot soldiers can handle it. I'm saying meet people where the fuck they at. Meet them where they at and give them a reason to give a shit about your cause. Because if you making them feel small because you think you better than them, because you've read more than them, you are alienating 90% of your fucking workforce. And we need this shit. We need this shit. We need the numbers. Ain't nobody got time to stroke your ego, bruh. If the only thing you have going for you in leftism is that you've read Kropotkin 8 million times, then so be it, but that is not helpful. You need more than theory. You need more than historical literacy. You need more than intellectualism to effect an actual literal revolution. There is no way that you can have an actual revolution if you do not have everybody, the masses, unto themselves, the masses. This is supposed to be a workers' movement. You think every machinist and every like customer service worker or whatever, every office worker even, because I haven't read this shit either. You think everybody in the world has read fucking Karl Marx? You think everybody has read Mao? You think everybody knows about Vietnam? Dude, this is America. I'm speaking on Western leftists, American leftists in specific. This is America. We don't know shit but what we've been told unless we have either gone to college or done the work for ourselves before this point. And a lot of people haven't. Even people who are like enamored with the idea of having that sort of knowledge, myself included. A lot of people just don't know. And that shouldn't be something that you hold them as inferior for. Because ultimately, we need to think about this in the sense of how do we make this better for everybody? Everybody. Not just those who have read enough or whatever. What are we establishing hierarchies for? For what? For what? What, you think you're going to be the intellectual superiority? I'm sorry, I'm Black. That's not working for me. That's not working for me. Because people used intellectual pseudoscience to give credence to the oppression of my people for years. So quite frankly, I really don't give a shit about who knows more or who's read more books. Knowledge does not come from the words of old white men only. So I'm gonna need people on the left to get real cool about that real quick. Because if you don't, you are shooting this movement in the foot and acting like it's acceptable because you've read more books. Suck my ass, dude. Dead ass. Seriously. What does that help? The entire purpose of my coming to the left in the first place, and I was already, quite frankly, I was already on the left from the beginning because I'm gay and I'm trans, so like duh. But me coming to the left in the first place was because I expected something more communal in approach, something more communicative and more collaborative, where we work together and talk to one another. That's hard to come by because capitalism has us so screwed. Like, if you're not the loudest voice in the room, then you don't matter. But that's a very capitalist way of thinking about things. Everybody's viewpoint has value if they're trying to add to your cause. I mean, I don't see any harm in listening to people who haven't read all the theory that you've read and seeing whether or not there are ideas that you can pick from that. And even for people who have read as much as you've read, like if it's that serious to you, if you need to only speak to other intellectuals, why are you shutting down people on your side because they don't entirely agree with your whole worldview? Like, it's just weird. Like, it's counterproductive, which is why I say being able to be communicative and collaborative, because you need both. On the left, we need both. We need to be able to talk to one another in good faith, and we need to be able to work together. So, okay. Slight tangent, but I promise it's on topic. I was watching a live stream with Non-Compete, Luna, and Jet Cloud. And they mentioned, I'm like 75% certain that it was Black Red Guard, but I'm not entirely sure. But somebody mentioned tactical unity. And I want to explain that concept because that is what the left needs. And then I'll explain like how I want this to work. Tactical unity means that even if we don't agree on the governmental systems, I say governmental because I don't have another word just yet, but the governmental systems that need to be in place to manage the human population after capitalism has been destroyed, even if we don't have those in place yet, and we can't agree on that yet, we need to be able to work together to our first goal. And our first goal, in my mind, to what I know, is dismantling capitalism. We need to be able to work together. And it doesn't come from shutting people out because you've read more. It doesn't come from bickering and squabbling and having this stupid ass counterproductive debate club on whether MLMs are right or SOCDEMs are right or socialists or ANCOMs or whomever are right. Like, who cares? We can't get to the point of figuring out who actually is correct until we get rid of the biggest enemy. So I don't understand why there's so much goddamn conversation about this. Like, what does this solve? Okay, fine, you're an MLM. That's great. You don't want to work with anarchists? Okay, cool. But can you and anarchists agree on at least one thing? Just that one thing, that we need to get rid of capitalism. Can we agree on that? Can we all agree on that? Can we agree on that? Should that not be our first goal? Because if the answer is yes, then all of this extra squabbling and bullshit is literally just that. It's bullshit. It means nothing. It means nothing. What are you bickering for? Bro, we can't even test your goddamn hypothesis because we still have to contend with fucking the monopoly on entertainment. Yes, I'm looking at you, Disney. The fuck? Like, we can't test anything because we don't have that space yet. So let's get the space first, and then let's talk about how we're supposed to structure everything beyond that. If we can't get past the first point, there is no point in any of us being here. Any of us. There is no point in any of us being here because obviously ain't nothing gonna happen if we can't get together. Like, it's unnecessarily sectarian. It is highly counterproductive. It does nothing. It does nothing but stroke your own personal ego. And I'm sorry, but fuck your ego right now. Like, fuck you and your ego. The fuck? Like, can we get it all together, please? Can we talk to one another like actual human beings? Let's start there. Let's start there. So, does the left eat its own? No. The left is a bunch of very passionate people who are very, very tired and very, very ready for change. And so we bicker because we all want what's best. And none of us have that solution. Not entirely. Not for everyone. So we cross paths and there's conflict, and that's fine. That's okay. But if it is impeding our progress, it is not necessary. Period. Does the left eat its own? Yes. If we keep up with this self-aggrandizing intellectual elitist circle jerk that we have going on right now, yeah, we absolutely do. Because we chew people up and spit them out of the movement. And that's not helpful. So, does the left eat its own? Sometimes. But we don't have to.